Great and wonderful afternoon, everyone. Today's Tuesday. I had to go and take care of some business today. That's why I have on the business attire. Took that tie off. I'm just not feeling it today. But anyways, man, I want to be a blessing to everyone. But I want to give y'all a very strong message, and I'm speaking to the parents today. I'm a parent. I'm a father. I have two beautiful daughters, two different ages, two different mindsets, two different personalities. Um, Characteristics are completely different. They're like day and night. But the message I want to provide to parents today is that you have certain standards for your children, right? All of us as parents, as good parents, parents that actually care and that we are hands-on with our children, we want our children to be successful. We want our children, or I hope that you will want your child or children to be more successful than you. You want your children to not go what you went through. You want them to skip over everything negative that has happened to you in your life, and you want them to be the best them that they can possibly be. Which leads me to this. As I was just explaining just a second ago, I have two beautiful daughters, 12 and 10, two different personalities, right? Well, the standards that I have for one, I can't have for the other. And the reason being is because I have one that is all about education. She wants to learn more. She wants to understand more. She's very inquisitive about life, how things work, why people think the way they think. The other one, on the other hand, she's very observant like her father. She keeps to herself. She keeps a lot of things in, and she's not as outspoken as the other daughter. So the standards that I have for both of them are high. I'm always going to keep my standards high for both of them, but I also have to keep my standards high for myself. So a lot of times the standards that we have for our children, we sometimes forget ourselves that, okay, we're asking our children to communicate. We're asking our children to be open. We're asking our children to do all these different things. And couldn't get my mind right, couldn't get my words right. For whatever reason, we forget as parents, we supposed to show them what right looks like. As in, the simple fact is, we're asking our children to communicate, but we're not communicating with them the way we supposed to, or we're not opening up to them like we supposed to. We're not apologizing to them the way that we're supposed to because of some of the things that we haven't dealt with in life. But again, when it comes to the standards, and right now I'm specifically talking about the girls, my girls, or your children. You have one that is really, really good in education. You have one that is really, really good in school. Both children are intelligent. Both are smart. Both are educated. Both know how to read and write, so on and so forth. But when you hold one of your children to the other standard of the other child that is not possibly at that level yet, or doesn't learn that exact same way, or doesn't understand or comprehend that exact same way as the other child, you begin to do these things with your children. And you never want to do that with your kids. You always want to keep your both of your children on the level playing field, but understand where your children are. Meet them where they are. If you have one child that understands math really well, you can't hold that same standard for your other child that struggles in that math, because that's just something that other child has naturally. It comes natural to them. And then the other one, you hold them to a standard of, at least they may just be at a point in life, or they may just be good enough at it to where they just passing. The other one's at a average, and the other one's at a C average. Don't push your child so much to a standard that they can't uphold, because what will end up happening is you will hurt that child. You will make that child feel less of a person. You will make them feel like you're looking down upon them, when in all actuality, you're not looking down at your child. You just want the best for your child. You have all good intentions for your child, but at the same time, you have two different people, two different human beings that was born in this world at two different times, and they have different characteristics, different learning styles, and all these different things. So sometimes as parents, we forget that this child is better at this than this other child. So those standards, you can still have high standards for your kids, but stop pushing your kids in directions that they are unable to go. Everybody's mindset is different. I learn different. I'm more of a visual learner. You can tell me something, you can describe it to me, you can put it in detail, and I'll understand it to an extent. But when it comes to me physically seeing it, most of the time, anytime that I scored a or a B on a test, was not necessarily from memory. It was all from visual. I had to visually see the questions, how it was done. I used to love math, but I had to see how it was done through the instructor, the teacher, the professor, or whomever it was. I had to physically see them do it. And I may have had a couple of questions in between the time, but I got it. But as soon as I would do something online, like I was taking online classes and I was struggling with that when it came to math, it was because I had to teach myself that I'm more of a visual learner. I did pretty well in English. English wasn't my strongest subject, but when it came to English, a lot of times I could skim over something, see the answer, and I would literally visualize and remember those words and what those words said. So every child is different. So what I'm trying to remind parents today, your children are different. Don't put one before the other. And don't say that you don't do it, because I've seen it firsthand. As parents, sometimes you don't mean to do it, but you do it. You'll put one child before the other, not because you love that other child more or because you love the other child less. It's the fact that it's a little bit easier. Listen to what I'm telling you. It's a little bit easier to deal with a child that knows it a little bit more or is already accomplishing or exceeding in that area, and then you have another child that's just not getting it. Stop comparing your kids to your other child. Stop comparing your child to your other child. You do it sometimes. One last thing I want to throw out there, and it just hit me right now because I was going to mention it the other day in another video. If you have 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 kids, you're always calling on that one specific one in the house. And I'm telling y'all this from experience. And this is nothing against my mother that raised me. She did a wonderful job. She did the best that she possibly could considering the situations. But listen to me when I tell you this. If you have 2, 3, or 4 kids, if you have more than one child in that house and you're always calling on that one specific one, all the time, just constantly, hey, do this, hey, do that, hey, do this, hey, do that. You're putting a burden on that child, that one child that will live with them for their entire life. And it affects that child in a negative way. Listen to me when I tell you this. Even though that child may get up and go and do it, even though that child may smile and it may seem like it doesn't bother that child, it does bother that child, especially when you see the other child in the room, and it causes a disconnect. It causes a disconnect within your children because you have one thinking, oh, you love him or her more than you love me. And then you have the other one saying, you must love the other one more than you love me because you never asked them for anything. Or you have the other one saying you love them more than you love me because you're always asking them to go and do this. It will cause a disconnect amongst your children. Some kids it affect a little bit worse than others, but I'm gonna tell you from my experience. I became very rebellious at the age of 12-ish, 13. Because most of my life it was always Jamel this, Jamel go do this, Jamel go do that, Jamel go do this, Jamel go do that. And a lot of the arguments and disconnect that I had with my sister, my older sister, we're 4 years apart, was because of that. It was always you love him better, or you love her better, or you let her get away with this, you let him get away with this. You cause a disconnect within your home. I don't know why I needed to say this, but you cause a disconnect in your home when you do that. And the reason why that is done is because that parent, that it's easier for them to call the child. It's not going to give them that much of a headache. So while the parent is thinking it's easier for them to call on a child that will go ahead and do it and get it done, you're making it harder for both children. It's easier for you, but harder for your children, and it grows up in them to make them resent one another or possibly even resent you. So do not disconnect your children in your home. It is your job to make sure that you show your children how to work together as a team. You are the manager of your home. If you're single or married, I said single, Lord have mercy. If you're single or married, regardless, you can cause a disconnect in your home. You are the manager of your home, meaning if you've never managed before in your life, you are managing human beings in that home. And that will also show outside of the home, which I'm not going to go into that kind of that message, but the message today is about the children and about us bettering ourselves as parents. Not that at any of the things that I have said today is a bad or negative or condescending thing. It is sometimes things that we do unintentionally, and it hurts our children, and it hurts us in the long run because our children begin to resent us. Those are some other things that you have to heal on your end or whatever, because the same thing could have happened to you. But again, man, I love talking to y'all. I appreciate y'all, and I pray that this has been a blessing. This video is a little bit longer than a few of my other videos, but look, I had to get that out. I was on my way home. I'm an hour away from home, and I said, okay, instead of me driving and trying to get this out and focusing on cars and stuff like that, let me pull over real quick and give this word and give this message, and hopefully it'll be a blessing to somebody, and somebody will take heed and apply it to their lives. And I'm going to continue to apply anything that I speak of to my life. If I'm not already doing it, I've done it, and I'm always continuously working on doing it even more, just because I want to make sure that I practice what I preach. But anyways, man, it's always a pleasure talking to y'all. I love y'all. Y'all be blessed, and you take care.